Harapan bahwa perang ini setidaknya dapat berhenti sejenak tidak bertahan lama setelah serangan udara Israel pagi itu menghantam Lebanon Selatan terlebih dahulu dan kemudian menghantam sebuah gedung apartemen di Beirut. IDF mengatakan komandan kelompok milisi yang bertanggung jawab atas pesawat tanpa awak tewas dan mencemari banyak wanita dan anak-anak yang tewas di lembah 16 orang di malam hari. Ini bukan pusat militer yang tampaknya menolak usulan Amerika Serikat dan Perancis untuk gencatan senjata selama 21 hari. Oke, ada peringatan yang hampir konstan dengan puluhan roket yang ditembakkan ke Israel.
For a 21-day ceasefire. We're continuing to hit Hizbullah with full force and will not stop until we achieve all our goals, said Benjamin Netanyahu en route to the UN General Assembly. In northern Israel, machinery and troops appeared to be building up near the border.
There's a siren. Yeah.
As our CBC News team headed in that direction, sirens sounded. Overhead, Israel's missile defenses intercepted Hezbollah rockets. The Iran-backed group made.
Dan ini adalah dampak dari setidaknya satu atau lebih roket Hizbullah yang ditembakkan di perbukitan beberapa ratus meter di belakang rumah-rumah ini di kota Shimona, sebuah komunitas yang sebagian besar telah dievakuasi selama hampir setahun sekarang mengambil keuntungan. Israel mengklaim telah membunuh komandan drone Hizbullah Muhammad Hossein Sarur dalam serangan rudal di Beirut setelah menolak seruan Barat untuk gencatan senjata selama 21 hari dengan kelompok militan tersebut. Serangan udara baru Israel telah menewaskan lebih dari 600 orang. Banyak dari mereka adalah wanita dan anak-anak.
While dealing with Gaza, where Hamas is trying to kill us. And Hezbollah in the north took an advantage. They see Israel's vulnerable.
In the nearby town of Safed, people wholeheartedly said no to a ceasefire with Hezbollah.
If you negotiate, you're regarded as weak. The only thing they understand is force.
We've been living with rockets throwing at us for years. What country would ever allow that to happen?
Although much of the world is engaged in trying to pull both Israel and Hezbollah back from an even more awful confrontation, the signs we saw in this key border area all suggested it's not happening. Chris Brown, CBC News in northern Israel.
Senior international correspondent Margaret Evans is in Beirut tonight. Margaret, I know you've just arrived, but you know Beirut, you know Lebanon. What's your sense of the place now?
It felt pretty subdued, Adrian. I mean, for one thing, the plane we came in on was pretty empty. Much easier to get a flight in than it is to get a flight out these days. And then driving through the center of town between 8 and 9 local time, you know, restaurants still open, but a lot of them are empty. And of course, if you know Beirut, you know it's one of those cities known for never sleeping. So people are definitely on edge. There was an Israeli strike in the Dahya today in the southern suburbs. That's the area, the part of the city known as the Hizbullah stronghold. Like I said, there's, you know, a real sense of edge right now, even though a lot of the old timers will say, hey, we've been through this before and we're hunkering down.
Margaret, I think it's hard probably to overstate how much is at stake for the people of Lebanon right now.
That's right. I mean, aside from what we're seeing now, you know, the rising death toll from the Israeli airstrikes, the displaced, people fleeing the south in ever greater numbers, Lebanon was already going through all sorts of, you know, trouble. In recent years, it's gone through an economic crisis, a banking crisis that tipped many in the middle class into poverty. People are united against Israel right now, but sectarian divisions in this country remain strong. There's a caretaker government in place. Politics is paralyzed. And on top of that, you know, people tend to forget that Lebanon is hosting 1 million Syrian refugees from their civil war years ago. And people here will tell you this country cannot afford another war or the humanitarian disaster they fear it might unleash. And there's a real sense of dread about it.
I bet. Margaret Evans in Beirut tonight. Thanks, Margaret.